Hello, everybody. Happy June 4th, 2020. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on today's show, we have a former East Catholic basketball player. His name, Jaylin Hunter, who's currently at Old Dominion. Jaylin, it's a pleasure to be able to finally get you on the show, man.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
First off, before we get into your time, even though it wasn't long with East Catholic, it was definitely memorable in and of itself. Just tell me about kind of your journey, what got you to play basketball, and then a little bit about your background.
My dad's a basketball coach, so I naturally, even if I liked it or not, I had to go to the games. And good thing for me, I loved it. My mom tells me stories when I was a baby. The times I wasn't crying is when I was at a basketball game. So I've always really grown up around the sport. Played it recreationally at the YMCA and stuff like that. Liked it. Tried other sports like baseball or t-ball, I guess, because it was on the tee. I was young. And football, I didn't like it as much. So stuck with basketball and I would just practice with my friends, play with my friends and stuff like that. But I really started taking it serious around middle school when I got on the AAU team. Just saw how serious the other kids were taking it, and me being competitive, I wanted to be just as good and better than them. So that's how. And then once I got older, I was allowed to just go more places, get in a car, like just allowed to drive to the gym and stuff. I always had access to the gym with my dad being a coach, and so that's when I just started doing something basketball related almost every day, and that's when I really started to fall in love with the game. And I'm grateful for it. I mean, my family's always supported me through it, and it's led me to where I am today.
Now, you mentioned how, your dad at a young age really seemed like he was it wasn't, I don't want to say pushy, because I don't think it doesn't sound like he was,
Mhm.
but he was around the game so much, coach, played, whatever. But it seems like because you were around him as well, you being his son, it kind of just grew on you.
Yes, for sure, for sure. He's never pushed me in a way where I found it disrespectful. He really only has two rules. One, if you're gonna play, you're gonna play hard, and if you want to play, then you got to work at it every day. So he said he was gonna support me when whatever I did, but if you want to choose the basketball route, you got to do it every day. You can't be 1 foot in and anything you do, and it just happened to be basketball. But yeah, I mean, just watching the game, I idolized all the players, thought they were all superstars. Probably annoyed them back then, but I mean, that's how I really fell in love with the game, just watching it all the time.
Hey, if they saw you now, they'd be like, "Hey, you could have annoyed us all you want, man, because you're doing some pretty good things." I mean, again, we'll get into what you've been able to do in the last few years in just a little bit, but kind of going through the progressions as a basketball player, I know by being able to talk to both the college and the high school level, the one big takeaway I've received from a lot of the players is when they grow, they kind of have to go through an adjustment period. Was that the same thing with you?
For sure. I think it really came with the schools that I went to in high school.
Mhm.
You learn what not to do and what to do on the basketball court. I think I struggled my first 2 years just with the situation I was in, but I took a positive way. I learned a lot of stuff of what not to do. And then my junior year, going to Creighton Prep in Nebraska, you learn what to do, how to work, stuff like that. Obviously, I learned a lot from my dad, but my dad can only do so much because he has his own players to worry about and stuff like that. But just hearing it, and also hearing it from different voices other than your family. Obviously, your family's voices get repetitive in a way just from being with them every day. But hearing it from other voices, my coaches back in Creighton Prep, they really taught me how to work and how to win. And then I used what I learned from that, brought it to East Catholic, and just enhanced on all that. And Coach Riley, he he helped me just enhance what I've already learned and make me just a completely better basketball player, better person. Now that's the number one thing, a better person, how to treat other people and things like that. So I'm grateful for every step of the way, whether it be good or bad.
Now, from the physical standpoint, obviously, you're still growing as of right now, but coming through the levels, you're getting taller, you're getting leaner, you're getting stronger. Was there any point, from your freshman year to your senior year where you felt like you had to kind of work maybe a little bit harder because you were continuing to grow physically?
I think my freshman and sophomore year of high school, actually, it's just I had bad growing pains in my knees. My
Really?
practices were just dreadful just because my knees were just hurting all the time. And maybe it was from lifting, maybe it was from not lifting. I really don't even know because I lifted sometimes, but looking back on it now, I wasn't really going as hard as I could. I wanted to save my knees for basketball, like on the court kind of things. But I mean, my junior year came around, like I didn't want to get knocked off my spot anymore when I'm dribbling the ball or anything. Like that's important to me. That became important to me to just work on my body and just gaining new information through coaches, websites, reading, just all the stuff you can improve on your body. Like right now, it's every year. I think it's a different step for me. One year it was lifting, then it's lifting harder. Now I feel like now that my freshman year is over, in college, it's more nutrition. I think I need to eat a lot better or a lot cleaner, and I think that'll be another step into helping my development.
So no more pizza, no more chicken wings, no more buffalo wings, none of that kind of stuff that we all love.
Not all the time. Not all the time. I'm not gonna eliminate it completely, but definitely not an everyday thing. Definitely not an everyday thing anymore.
I'll tell you this much: if you give me a chance to get wings, I'm going to Archie Moore's down in New Haven. I'll get about 40 wings. I don't care. I got
I gotta try that. I'm not a big. I'm not. I've only been here for a year, so I'm really only a Hartford and my area type of guy. I never really went to the other side of the Connecticut, so I gotta check that out for sure.
when this virus is done. I'm telling you right now, man, go to Pepe's in New Haven and go to Archie Moore's because I went to school in New Haven and
Mm-hmm.
I was just like you because I'm from a small area in Connecticut, didn't really know about all these places. And then
Mm-hmm.
once I went to New Haven, man, I was like, oh my God,
It
where,
sounds
like, why I was missing all this?
good. We need places to eat as a family as well, so we're always looking for different places to eat. So we'll definitely check it out. We might need to even get takeout now. Now stuff's starting to open up. We never know.
Try Pepe's. You'll
Mm-hmm.
thank me later. And if your parents don't like it, I am so sorry.
Yeah, I got you. I got
So back to the subject, since we were talking about food.
you.
You going to East Catholic? Tell me about how you found about the school, because even East Catholic, for all this, the success that it's had, it's not like a big school.
Mhm. Well, my dad, when we found out the news that we're moving, he had to move first. We were still living in Nebraska, so he
Okay.
had to do all the details by himself. He had to what's the word I'm looking for? He had to figure that out by himself. I didn't have any knowledge on it. He had
Mhm.
knowledge about prep schools there, but we didn't know if we wanted to go the prep school route because I think it's a lot of politics, a lot of other things that can go into that, a lot of unknowns at least. But luckily on the staff, Tom Moore, he has kids that went to the school, so he told him, and he knows about their basketball program and how they've been successful the last 5-10 years or so. So we didn't know if it was a state championship caliber team, but it was a team that had at least some kind of tradition, a culture, or something like that. So, and we could work from there. Obviously, I got really lucky and we became very successful, but that's how we found out about the school, was through somebody else. But it was never oh, let's pick the best school and go there type of thing. Like, I think if we really went off that, I think historically Sacred Heart or somebody like that has been really good. Or so it was never something like that, or recruitment or anything like that. That's just not true, contrary to popular belief.
Selfishly, if you went to Sacred Heart, I could have seen you play your entire senior year. So you
Yeah, yeah,
deprived me of doing that. I only saw you for one game, man. Well,
yeah.
broadcasting wise.
Mhm. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was. I just didn't know. I never knew, so it's hard.
Now, what was your first conversation like with the head coach at East Catholic?
It was just more talking about the culture. It was actually it was before I really was in the school, so it just started with a workout. So nothing illegal happened or anything like that because I wasn't in the school. It just started with a workout. I just wanted to get to know him, and I mean, I loved everything that Coach Riley was saying about just how to carry yourself on and off the court. Just you need to be. We have a term 1%. You need to be the 1% of the population that's not doing what everybody else is doing, and that's with not just on the basketball court, off the basketball court as well. And I want to consider myself. I want to be a part of that 1% of people who are just uncommon. So I liked his message early. Obviously, you can only get so much of a gauge on somebody through one conversation, but at
Mhm.
least it was good groundwork to work on. I knew Coach Riley had good morals from there.
I like that. While everyone is zigging, you zag. Don't be a
Mhm.
follower, be a leader. I like
Exactly.
that. That's a good analogy
Mhm.
by Coach Riley. And I could see
Yeah.
why that resonated with the team because the amount of success, even prior to you coming to East Catholic, was very noticeable with the program. When I was doing my research on the team before the game against Holy Cross in the first round,
Mhm.
I was like, this team is so successful. Why am I just reading about this now?
Yes. We like to we actually we like to keep our work and everything just
Mhm.
under the radar as much as possible. Obviously, people go to the games, they become impressed through our teamwork, work ethic, and stuff like that. But we're never going to broadcast that ourselves. So I think
Mhm.
that's why we kind of fall under the radar to other teams. But I mean, I think I like that kind of style that we take towards it for sure.
Add me to one of those people that was impressed. Tell
Thank
you
you,
that much.
thank you.
Now, what was being the new? Because I hate to say this, you were the new kid on the block. Let's be plain
Hmm.
and simple. You were a new player. You weren't really well known, probably in Connecticut, because you just basically got there. So,
Hmm.
what was? I'm sure the players were very welcoming to you, but was there anything as far as trying to earn their respect?
I don't think I got the vibe from them. I think I just gave myself the vibe I need to earn their respect. I like that was my first priority getting there. I just wanted to show them that I'm here just by working hard.
Hmm.
You can't really promise anything based off talent. I'm not gonna go out there and say I'm gonna make every shot or I'm gonna do this, but I am gonna work hard for the team because I'm the number one thing I want to do is win. And they had the same kind of mantra as I did. Like that winning was the number one. Everything else is just irrelevant if winning isn't about it. So we all had the same goals in mind. So I think that's what really helped gravitate me towards the guys and likewise. But I mean, me being a senior, I still know I needed to bring some sort of leadership. And I've been through things in my career where I feel like I could help younger guys, people who need to play, who haven't really experienced the things that I have experienced. Like even winning a state championship in Nebraska, you learn so much from that. So at least had the feeling of knowing what it's like to win, how I could use that because this is an everyday thing. You take days off with that, you're not going to win a state championship. You don't deserve to. So it's you got to make yourself better every day, even if you're not touching a basketball. Just anything you're doing, you have to make yourself better every day. So I just wanted to bring that kind of message to the team. Like I'm here to win. For one, it's not about stats. It's not about offers. All that stuff's going to come if we win. Like if you're on a losing team, nobody's going to look at you. So that was my first priority.
You having played in Nebraska, because now this has now piqued my interest.
Mhm.
You having played in Nebraska, you probably saw one style of basketball or maybe a couple. Would you say that coming to Connecticut, it was better, worse, in the middle, or maybe just different in general?
It's definitely different. It's definitely different. I mean, just defenses. There's good players in Nebraska. Nebraska's actually coming up in talent. They actually hold, I think, somebody who's like right outside the top nationally top 10 in the class of 21. They got a lot of good kids down there, and obviously they don't get as much exposure. But I
Mhm.
mean, it's definitely different. I think there's top teams in Nebraska that could contend with top teams in Connecticut. There's bottom tier teams in each state. But I mean, I've been asked like what team would win between the two teams I want. I really just don't know. I love them all the same, so I'm never gonna answer that question. But I mean, it's definitely different. I mean, I remember us in Connecticut preparing for a boxing one and triangle and two defenses like that. I just thought to myself, I was like, in Nebraska, I don't think, even though there were like star players around, I don't think we would ever run that. I remember thinking that during the season last year. So I think it's a little bit different in that perspective.
Now, your senior year, you played against some very good teams, obviously, before the playoffs and even during the playoffs. Was there a particular team that kind of really piqued your interest? Like, wow, this team is good. And then same thing for a player, because I'm sure there was one that you went up against. Like, man, this guy across from me, I got to give my all.
I think Well, a team not from Connecticut. I'll go to Connecticut after, but a team not from Connecticut. We played in the Hoop Hall that year, actually, and that's like a big national tournament, a bunch of games in succession from each other, just over and over again. Some of the best players, some NBA players, a lot of NBA players have played in that tournament, and so we knew that that was going to be a big game for us because it was against another nationally known team that we didn't know much about. So that game really sparked all of our interest because we wanted to see how good we were, and we ended up winning that game. But I remember in terms of Connecticut, just when I first came here, students, teammates, it was like, "Oh, we just can't have what happened to us last year." I'm like, "What are you guys talking about? I don't know." And then I've seen over and over again the shot that was Corey McKeithen made. So obviously, I think that just turned into our natural rival from what's been happening in the past. And me being the competitor I am, I feel like I was there. So I was like, well, we got to beat these guys, because and so that became a good rivalry. I love playing against them. It was fun all three times. Even the one we lost, it was those were the best games to me in Connecticut, playing against Windsor for sure.
Yeah, Windsor had, I mean, even this season, and it's a shame that we couldn't, I couldn't see, the state couldn't see how far they could go. But you mentioned McKeithen. They had Primo Spears. They had
Mm-hmm.
another player too whose name is escaping me, but they had like
Jordan
three
Riley,
other.
probably.
What was that?
Jordan Riley, the other
Yes,
kid.
that's who
Yeah.
it was. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So those three were dudes. They
Mm-hmm.
could ball.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It was, I mean, and even we're competitive as ever on the court, but off the court, we talk. I talked to Corey and Primos. Uh, I've talked to them. I've had conversations with them before. So I mean, it's on court. On court, that's what everybody says. On court, it's war, but off the court, I mean, I think we're cordial with each other, good friends, things like that.
And as you went through the playoffs, obviously it got more competitive each game, as it
Mm-hmm.
should, because it's the playoffs. But did you guys ever think like, okay, we have a pretty good chance of playing Windsor in the Division One championship down at Mohegan?
I think I think that's what we wanted. I would say that's kind of. Oh, I would say that's what I wanted, at least. Just losing them in the CCCs. I saw they're on the other side of the bracket. I was like, at least I want to play them again. Best two out of three. So, but I mean, we were really, obviously we took it game by game, but we definitely saw Sacred Heart on our side of the bracket, and they were just as they were just as good as us in Connecticut, probably undefeated as well. I don't remember the record exactly, but I remember that would have been a big game in the semis, but they ended up losing to Trumbull, and then we had to play Trumbull, and I was like, well, Trumbull must be just as good as Sacred Heart since they beat them. So
Mhm.
we really weren't focused on them until the championship really came. But I think if we had to choose somebody to play, I think that would have been a fun game. So I'm glad it worked out that way.
Selfishly, it would have been great that Sacred Heart could have gotten to you guys because I was anticipating on doing that. Them
Mm-hmm.
losing to Trumbull was not. I was at that game because it was at Pomperock, and Sacred Heart just didn't have it that night. Trumbull did. I mean,
Yeah,
they had one kid that scored, I think, the 35, 40 points, something like that. So
yeah.
it was
We
Trumbull's
watched it.
thing.
We watched it on film. We're like, because I think
Yeah.
I just never heard of the school, the whole school, as the not even the team, like the school. I was like, who are these guys? And they look very, very good on film. They're a hard team to plan against when we
Mhm.
were scouting them for sure.
Yeah, it would have been fun to see Sacred Heart go up against you guys because they had Tabor, who was up in New York this past season. They
Mm-hmm.
had Waters, who I think is playing at Southern. Omar Rowe, who's I forgot where he's playing, but that team had so much talent, man. To go up against East Catholic, it would have been one of the better battles I think in Connecticut.
Yeah, for sure. We played them in the some fall league right before the season started. A couple scrimmage. Actually, it was a scrimmage game before the season started.
Mhm.
Tabor wasn't there, but the rest of them were there. So they actually had the 7-foot kid or 6'10" kid
Oh,
too. So
Tierney.
they're a really good team. We knew they would be right there with us, competing for a championship for sure.
And you were able to compete for a championship against Windsor. Yeah, I was at that game. I could tell you right now, I felt like I was in an NBA playoff game because the entire gym was either two sides, East Catholic or Windsor. If you were in the middle, you had to make a decision. At least what people in front of me were telling me because they were like, "Oh, who are you here for?" I'm like, "I'm just watching the game." They're like, no, you got to pick a team. I'm just
Mhm,
here to watch the game.
mhm. For
So just
sure, for sure.
tell me about that atmosphere, man, because even as a young man as yourself, you're still young, but you've grown up. You
Mhm,
look back on that and you're like, I was in a very big game. And for a high school kid, that's a lot to take in.
mhm. I would say as the game was going, well, as warm-ups, waiting from the game before you, all that stuff going on, I promise you, if the gym was empty, it would have been the same thing. I think I was just so locked in on what was happening in between the lines. But watching the game, I've watched the game so many times after it happened. I'm looking at the whole lower bowl is filled, the upper bowl is half filled. I was like, this is it. Like we're getting just as much as the WNBA team is getting. So it was like it was crazy to see how many people were there, and just the
Mhm.
student sections. Our student section came strong, so did theirs, and it was just. I think after the game as well, you finally notice how many people were really there in the crowd and things like that. Obviously, I noticed my parents. That's the first people I looked to during the game. But I mean, as far as everybody being there and the numbers of the population that was at the game, I was shocked to see how many people were at the game. And so, like you said, it was one side or the other. So it was definitely fun. It was a fun game.
Is there any particular part of the game where it still is remnants in your mind where you'll never forget? Maybe it was like a turning point, or maybe it was a key shot, something like that.
Um, There are a couple plays I definitely noticed, especially watching after the game. But during the game, I just remember the silence, the focused kind of silence, not the scared or nervous kind, just the focused kind of silence we all had. Like the goal is uh 32 minutes away. We gotta. This is the time right now. So I just remember how focused we were. I admire how focused we were. The
Mhm.
whole team, from everybody from the starters to the end of the bench, everybody wanted the same goal. And just I will always remember. I don't know why I remember it so vividly. How the game ended when I think Jordan Riley hit a three. There was like 4 seconds left. We didn't have to take the ball out. We just started celebrating then because the clock just ran out. And it was just one of the best feelings of my life. It was just a whole long season, and the goal that we wanted, we finally achieved. So that's definitely what I remember.
And like you said earlier in this interview, the 1% doing something else that others, zagging while everyone else is zigging, and
Hmm.
it's like what you said, being able to kind of bring it together as the clock is winding down to the final seconds, and then double, triple, whatever zero. You
Hmm.
guys are the champions. Were you just like, was it just one big ball of emotion? Was it tears? Was it happiness? Just tell me about it.
It was one big ball of emotion for sure. Because at the end of the day, that was my last high school game. I remember actually another moment. I remember
Mhm.
I was shooting the free throws. There was like 10 seconds left, and I was like, I remember thinking the game pretty much had been won, and I was like, this is my last high school free throws. I remember thinking that in my head. I just couldn't help but smile, and I was just so happy. But yeah, I mean, it was just a ball of emotion. I was happy for myself. I was happy for my team, my coaches. I'm just glad that our goal got accomplished.
Yeah, man, it was a dream season for you guys, and it was great to see. You guys were the best team the entire season, and a lot of times, just like in pro sports, the best team does not win the championship because you have to go through the dog days of not just the season but the playoffs. But you
Hmm.
guys finished what you started by winning the championship, and it was a fun game to be able to watch. It really
Hmm.
was.
Yes, we had to take it one game at a time. If we looked at it from day one,
Mhm.
looking at the championship, that's how you get tripped up by teams you shouldn't be getting tripped up on. And we had a hiccup in the CCC championship. But I wouldn't even say that's a lack of focus. That was just hats off to Windsor for playing a better game than us that night. But I mean, our focus really never wavered all season on the game by game. It was game by game for one goal. So that's how we took it.
Jaylin, it's been great to be able to have you on. It's always good to be able to get talents from Connecticut. Now, before I let you go, I just want to get to this real quick. You're at Old Dominion. You just
Mhm.
completed your freshman year. Just tell the people back here in the States about how your freshman year went with Old Dominion.
It was good. It was a lot of learning. It's a whole new level from high school, and it's what I signed up for. This is what I wanted, and I'm not gonna sit here and say that it was the most fun or best year that I've had, because there was definitely a lot of freshman struggles that you had, even off the court with just managing your schedule. It's different. You're alone. You're alone in the sense where you don't come home to your mom, dad, sister, and dog every day. So it was definitely a struggle at first and throughout the season. But I just taking the stuff that I've learned, even though maybe it didn't translate on the court,
Mhm.
there was so much that I've learned that I could use for next year. And I'm just excited to whenever things happen. I can't. That's what's been hard, just not knowing when stuff is going to open back up. But just I've been preparing. I don't really want to talk about how much I'm preparing this year as much as I did last year with
Mhm.
just all the social media and stuff. I just try to just stay quiet, do what I need to do, and try to help our team win next year. So I still bring the same morals that I have from high school to college. Number one thing for me is winning. So winning first, everything else can come second. So hopefully we win a lot more games. We were on the fringe. We had a lot of stuff happen to us this year with injuries, a couple transfers midseason, but I think we can take the next step as a team next year. So I hope we can win a lot more games.
That's a great approach to be able to have, man, because that can carry with you not just in basketball, but post basketball career and then in life. And then if you decide to, whatever you end up deciding to do,
Hmm.
instead of having to put, because this day and age, you got young men and women who just want to put everything on social media. But
Hmm.
instead of you doing that, you'd rather let your play do the talking. And I
Yes,
think
for
that's
sure.
very admirable,
Hmm.
you know?
Thank
But hey, Jalen, that just about wraps things up here. But it was a pleasure to be able to have you on again. You're always welcome to come back on anytime you want.
thank you. I appreciate it.
That'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.